Hey, what's up, ADH? Yes, welcome to my YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be discussing some themes around multiplayer games and the competitive nature that we see surrounding them. I'd like to start us off with a quote to get us thinking. In Emma Witkowski's chapter of Debugging Game History by Henry Gewens, they write, "Cooperative and collaborative play is multiplayer, and the social lubricants are a part of sports, in the game by design or by way of a player's cultures from the very start." She's saying here that whether designers intentionally include sporting themes in their games or not, there will almost always be some element of sporting within them. In her essay, she discusses the prevalence of sports and their importance of popularizing early video games. Her claims are certainly valid, but I want to discuss some of the other effects that treating video games as conventional sports could be causing within the gaming industry and in wider gaming communities as well. I'll be discussing this over some gameplay clips that I found of a variety of multiplayer games, so you don't have to stare at my face the whole video. Let's get into it. Let's begin with a little throwback to olden times, the days of dice and character sheets. The first clip I chose is of a session of Critical Role, a Dungeons & Dragons livestream, then Neverwinter, a video game adaptation of Dungeons & Dragons. I wanted to discuss Dungeons & Dragons because of its key role in the development of the RPG genre, as well as the gaming industry as a whole. Despite this importance, it has always been regarded with a certain hesitance or disdain from most gamers. Regarded as the very peak of nerddom, other gamers avoid it like the plague. Esther McCallum Stewart writes in her chapter of DGH, early game scholars ascribe roleplay to feminine activities. For example, Roger Calloway sees such behavior as the ultimate and humiliating metamorphosis of a serious activity. This is apparent in popular culture and representation of D&D players as sweaty men and boys wearing capes and wizard hats in their mother's basements. Much of this criticism does spawn from the sentiment that roleplay is feminine or humiliating. Other gamers prefer serious games, where they run around and shoot each other until one team wins. For some reason, players seem to ascribe the ability to win to seriousness. In D&D, there isn't really any way to win, and as such, it's that much easier to discredit as childish and unimportant. My focus in this video is on collaboration, and due to the stigma around D&D, it is often hard to appreciate its collaborative qualities. Since early games, however, achievement hunting and hidden game interactions have helped draw gamers together. To this day, there are websites dedicated specifically to inform players about the details of the games they play. Locations of items in games like Dark Souls, locations of rare Pokemon in these games, even how to unlock fighters in games like Smash Bros, in which players must complete specific requirements to unlock playable characters. These are all examples of positive ways for players to come together and collaborate. So what am I so worried about? I'll get there soon. Of course, some forms of collaboration are less direct, with modding for example. Modding has been a huge part of the evolution of the industry and led to some of the most popular games. Dota 2 is one of the oldest MOBAs around, and began as a mod to a Warcraft game. This innovation led to other games such as League of Legends, which has become a worldwide sensation with competitive teams from all over the world. In his chapter of DGH, Hector Postigo states that modders, by design or by consequence of their productivity, add dimensions to the structure of the industry. League of Legends is a great example of this. Another example is a new Battle Royale style game called Spellbreak, which puts players into the role of a mage as they fight to the death in an ever-closing area of play. While not well known, this is a great example of the ways that modding can serve to progress the gaming industry. Now I want to talk about game culture, but what game culture exactly is depends greatly on the context, and making the distinction is very important. In the game culture chapter of DGH, the author states that as important as it is to understand what game culture means in any given situation, giving attention to the consequences of its use is necessary. Despite what we mean specifically when we say the words game culture together, it is vital that we are aware of what we say and how it affects that culture. I mention this because I want to discuss some of the negativity that seems so impossible to avoid in gaming culture. Most anyone who has played a game with competition between players can tell you that trolling and flaming are real. Sometimes one is in response to the other, but other times players might just disagree on something and begin a spiral of negativity. In games with competitive features and ranking systems like Overwatch, Counter-Strike, or even more casual games such as Dead by Daylight, players might experience these things. While aggravation is not a foreign concept in games due to the necessity for challenge in making engaging games, these negative behaviors directed towards other players has spawned a whole subculture seemingly within the greater gaming culture. The most drastic and documented case of this negativity is called Gamergate, and is now an infamous controversy in the gaming industry, and there's nothing stopping it from happening again. While competition is fun and enjoyable on many levels, on another level, it fosters anger and aggression that players express towards one another. If this is truly the case, then the games industry should put more focus and effort into developing games that foster cooperation and emphasize this first, rather than competition. Games that put players together rather than pitting them against each other could help form stronger ties between players and prevent the next Gamergate from happening in the first place.